Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 yo, go, go, go. Hustle hard, hustle every single day. I'll be making moves till I'm buried in my grave. To the system, I don't wanna be a slave. I've been doing shit my way, or the highway. And in the driveway is a nice range, cause I grind through the climb, I invite pain. You'll never hear me, bitch, nah, I don't complain. Just gotta flip the switch and you can go and obtain anything you want, anything you need. Your mind's got the key ingredient, it's belief. They deceive with the negativity, but I just slide right by that energy. Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go. You got a mind, but even that could change. You could flip the gray matter like some batter in your brain. That's why they say, fake it till you make it A. And if you play that game, then you just might make a change. Rearrange all the bad to okay. Take the worst thoughts saying, turn them to a game. Take the best thoughts saying, put them on display. On repeat in your brain till you're feeling no more pain. Never slow yourself down, you can do some more. Push past all the pain and you'll find a door. Open it up and finally explore everything that you thought you could never do before. And even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go.
Hello viewers, I am back again. This is video PY4, Python project for beginners. In our last video, we managed to modify a car record from the car's masters table. Today, we will log in as a member customer and modify our personal details. Let's start the superb car rental system. Before we proceed to member customer login, let's get back to the car's master table. I did some changes on the table as follows. Let me show you the car list table. This is the table. I added a field, book date. That is this one. Instead of having blank date value, I replaced them with date, month, year. So those are the two changes I've made. There is a minor change in my add car function, but there is no change in the modify car function. Let's go to the add car function. I'll scroll through very slowly so you can see all the codes. The minor change I've made is here. When I write to the text file, it's here. The change is here. Now let's run the program. I'll select to member customer. To modify personal details. Oops, you have not logged into the system yet. Press enter to return to menu. Okay, I'll select one customer login. User ID JOE 123. Password 123456. Okay, I successfully logged in. Next, 2. Modify personal details. Customer name, no change. Enter. Customer IC, I'll change it to 88888. Telephone number 019 019 019. Address 1 Microsoft Way. Are you sure you want to save the record? Yes. Record is saved successfully. Press return to go to the previous menu. Okay, so we managed to log in and modify our personal details. Now, let us go to the customer menu function. Okay, this is the customer menu function. If we select to modify personal details, this is the function. If it is blank, you have not logged into the system yet. Press enter to return to menu. Okay, so we got to log in. And if we press 1, these are the codes. We call a function customer login. Let's go to that function, F12. So in this function, the system is asking for user ID and password. Then they call this function. Check user credentials. Let's go to that function, F12. So in this function, it open the customer file, load all the records to customers list for I in range length customers. That is, for each record in the customers list, it will try to match the user ID and password. If there is a matching, it captures the customer ID and user yes no equals true. User yes no is something like, does the user exist? True, yes, it exists. Then it returns a boolean, user yes no, and a customer ID. Okay, let's go back to the calling program. Check user credentials function returns value to this variable, check user ID. So the first element is a true false boolean. If not check user, system will print customer ID and password do not match. Please key in correct customer ID and password. Else, This is the second element in the list. It captures the customer ID. So for this customer login, it returns the customer ID. Now let's go back to the calling program. Now for this function customer login, it returns a value. It returns the customer ID. Okay, let me show you the customer table. This is the customer table. Customer ID is this one. It is the first field. User ID is this one. And this is the password. Okay, if the customer logged in successfully, we capture the user. If the user ID is empty, that is the login failed, then user login already will be false. Else, take note of the global variable GCCusID. At the root, we declare the global variable GCCusID. That is here on line 6. This is our first main menu function. So we put the global variable right at the top. To create a global variable inside a function, you use the global keyword. Use the global keyword if you want to change a global variable inside a function. Okay, here, customer login. If the customer logged in successfully, we capture the customer ID. And then we say GCCusID equals to cusID. We keep the customer ID in the global variable. And then we say user login ADY true. That is, user login already true. Now, why do you need a global customer ID? Okay, let us explore the function by running in debug mode. I'll put a breakpoint at this line. Now let's run the program in debug mode. 1. Customer login. If you are in the debug mode, remember to use these keys. F11, F10 for step over, step out, Shift F11. I'll click F11. Let's go to this customer login. F11. This is the function. It will prompt the user for user ID password, and then it will call this function. Let's do that. User ID Joe 123. F11. Password 123456. Enter. Call the function. Check user credentials. F11. Now we are in this function. Now we are in this function. Check user credentials. The function will read the customer's table and load it to the customer's list. For I in range length customers, that is, for each record in the customer's table, it will look for a match for ID and password. If there is a match, it will capture the customer ID and the Boolean variable user yes no equals true. That means user exists, true. Then it returns this Boolean value user yes no and customer ID. F11, let's run the codes. First it reads the table, customers, and return the table to the calling program. If you look at this customers list, it has two square brackets in the beginning. So for this customers table, it will cycle each and every record to get a matching user ID and password. Check user credentials will return some values to this variable, check user ID. F11. Now, for this check user ID variable, it has two values. The first value that is in the first element is a true or false element. The first element is a true value. The second element has a value 1 here. Check user ID in bracket 0. You are getting the first element. So this is a true or false value. F11 is true. That means the customer exists. If the customer exists, then this check user ID, we get the second element. Second element stores the customer ID. F11, you can see the customer ID is 1 in a string. Once we get the customer ID, we do a break. We do a break because we want to get out of the while loop, this while loop. F11. For this customer login function, we return customer ID to the calling program. F11. Customer login will return a value, customer ID. F11. So this customer ID will have a value 1. F11. Remember to use the global keyword if you want to change the value of a global variable inside a function. Okay, you must have this keyword. Then you can change the value of a global variable inside the function. F11. Now GC cast ID will have a value 1. So far, we have successfully logged in and we have stored the customer ID in the global customer ID variable. So the function from here, it goes to the end here. Customer menu. Customer menu is the same menu here. So again, it will display all these options. Let's run it. F11. So it will go back to the customer menu function and run again. Select an option. Okay, this time we select Modify Personal Details 2. enter. F11. Now we are here. Now take notice of this. The second time we go through the customer menu, now the customer ID is blank. It used to be 1, but now it is blank because the program logic is going through the customer menu a second time. So the customer ID is blank. But if you notice that the global customer ID has a value 1. That's the reason why we use the global customer ID. Global customer ID equals 1, then we modify customer details. F11. Now we are in modify customer details. Now, take note of this variable customer record. We are calling this function load specific customer. F11, load specific customer. First, it opens this customer text file and load it to this lines variable. For I in range length lines, for each customer record, it is trying to find a match with the customer ID. If there is a match, it will return the customer record. F11. Notice that my list cust ID contains the customer record. Look at this. It contains the customer record. And there is one square bracket only. One square bracket means that list contains a customer record. If you see two square brackets in a variable, that means that list is a list of lists, or you call it list in a list. Okay? So in this case, for load specific customer, we are returning a customer record. And there is only one square bracket. F11. This function returns some value, and it is stored in this customer record. F11. Now, if you notice, this customer record contains one customer record only. F11. Then we print out the customer details here. One record only. F11. So in this block of code, we get user input. F11. In this block of code, we show the user the updated list. Are you sure you want to save the record? If the user says yes, we have two for loop here. One for loop and another for loop here. What does this for loop do? The program will access each customer record to match the customer ID. If the match is found, it will open the customer's text file with W attribute. That is, for this for loop, it will cycle each record to find a matching customer ID. If there is a matching customer ID, then it will open up the text file with the W attribute. Next, what is this second for loop? In the second for loop, the program logic will access each customer record, clean the data, then write to the file. For the second loop here, the program will access each record. Then it used to replace and clean the data and then write to the file. Now look here. What is the difference between this line and this line? Okay, let me show you the customer's file. This is the customer file. When you open a text file with a W attribute, it will empty all the records in the file. That means if you open up the customer's text file, it will empty all the records here. After that, the cursor will be placed here. So, when you do the first write, that is, when you do the first write here, you do not need to add the carriage return because the cursor is already on the first line. You can just add the string to the line. Now, let's say you have added the first record. For subsequent records, you need to run this command. You need this carriage return. Why do you need the carriage return? Let me show you the customer file. Let's say in this case, we have a record here. Where is the cursor now? The cursor is here. It is at the end of the string. So, for subsequent records, you have to add a carriage return here. The cursor will be here. When the cursor is here, then you can add the string here. So, that's the difference between this line and this line. When the function is completed, we prompt the user to press return to go to the previous menu. That is the customer menu function. And this is the customer menu.
Got a mind, but even that could change. You could flip the gray matter like some batter in your brain. That's why I say, fake it till you make it A. And if you play that game, then you just might make a change. Rearrange all the bad to okay. Take the worst thoughts saying, turn them to a game. Take the best thoughts saying, put them on display. On repeat in your brain till you're feeling no more pain. Never slow yourself down, you can do some more. Push past all the pain and you'll find a door. Open it up and finally explore everything that you thought you could never do before. And even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go.
Okay, that's all folks. If you like my video, please give a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. See you again in the next video. Bye bye.